Okay, we are live. This is Pope Elon, the real Pope, by One-Eyed Jack and the Shells. So we have a list of things to talk about today. We'll give people a few moments to show up. What's up, T-Dog? Rico Sauce? I'll be handing out wrenches at the end of the live stream if you comment. I have my secondary computer open here. There we are live. Okay, good. InfinitePlane.live will take you here. So if I see you there flailing without a blue titanium wrench, I will hand one out to you. Open season on trolls. All right, so here is the topics of the day in no particular order of importance. None of this fake stuff is actually important. So it's all equally unimportant, I guess you could say. What's up, Tracy Banton? Here is your wrench. What's up, Marcus? Thanks for joining. Says, oh yes, add as moderator. This is all only applies to the main YouTube channel. Go to infiniteplane.live. And tonight, I'm going to be watching a movie called Sinners. I saw the trailer, and I had a feeling that it was going to foreshadow some kind of racial agitprop psyop stuff they're going to do this year. And I think I've been vindicated. I have to go see for myself. But let me give you a description of this movie Sinners that I'm going to go watch tonight after this live stream. And I'll come back and record a review for members. So take a listen. Sinners, directed by Ryan Coogler, a 2025 supernatural film set in 1930s Mississippi that uses the vampire mythos as a vehicle for exploring complex racial and historical themes. It does feature white vampires. So it goes on to say it includes white vampire antagonists, and one transforms a couple to become implied here, some KKK stuff. We'll see. Strangely enough, I was just driving over here, and someone next to me is blasting their radio. It was Black Skinhead by Ye. And I'm like 99% sure he sampled those drums from Marilyn Manson, Beautiful People. Okay, so about Sinners. It says the vampires serve as metaphors for exploitation and appropriation, especially music, culture. The lead vampire is a predator and a figure with his own history of marginalization as an immigrant, complicating the binary of pure white versus black. Okay, so this is interesting in itself. We'll take a look. But conclusion, it does feature white vampires as significant antagonists, but that might be an oversimplification. But the significance of the imagery, the significance of what is being put out there is what I'm paying attention to, because I contend that all of the entertainment is orchestrated to coincide with planned psyops. And we're generally vindicated event after event. So I saw this trailer and I thought, I got to go see this movie. And what are we dealing with right now in the world of psyops? Well, right now, as we speak, we've got the Austin Metcalf. And if you haven't been following that, Austin Metcalf, one of the twins who was stabbed at the track meet, he's being touted as sort of a white Trayvon Martin by the rally organizer. It was this Protect White Americans rally organized by Jake Lang. And he tried to get the kid's father to back him up and use this as a, like I said, kind of like a White Lives Matter counterpart to Black Lives Matter. And the father wants nothing to do with it. And he's seeking to, I guess, convince the family he's actually on their side. It's kind of weird. It's convoluted. But what you're seeing here, though, are these high-profile agitators attempting to use this person's death as a form of a martyr to advocate something similar to BLM, but from the other side, Protect White Americans. And a lot of people are calling it out for what it is, an obvious attempt to exploit something, demagoguery. But anyway, that's happening right now. That's the Austin Metcalf thing. And the racial nature of this kind of makes me think that the movie might relate to it. And then furthermore, Tucker Carlson and Alex Jones are just hanging out, and they just forecasted a, quote, racial false flag. A false flag. I'm saying in quotes, because a false flag is this idea that the government's going to do something and blame a scapegoat. They're not saying it's fake. They're saying it's going to be real, but it's going to be staged or directed by the government, which is the opposite of what I'm saying. I'm saying that the whole thing is a hoax. And Tucker Carlson and Alex Jones are in that side of the media ecosystem that will say that whatever happens on the news is real, but there's a conspiracy because somebody else actually did it. Someone else is at fault. Somebody else did 9/11. It's a pattern. And this pattern goes back as far back as we've looked. It's been consistent. So if Tucker Carlson and Alex Jones are forecasting a race-related psyop, then we're probably going to get a race-related hoax, and they're going to call it a false flag. You see how that works? The mainstreamers will say, no, it happened as we saw on TV, and the alt media and conspiracy theorists will say, no, this was a psyop, but it was real. There are victims. Klaus Schwab and the Pope stepped down, both of them 88. Klaus Schwab retired, stepped down from the World Economic Forum, and the Pope, 88, passes away. Now, it's anybody's guess. Was he really around this long? Did he stay alive just long enough to meet J.D. Vance? Or were they weekend at Bernie's, like propping him up, or the illusion of him being alive, so they could coincide his death with Easter, which has significant relevance to the worshippers of Ishtar and Catholics. So we have that to talk about. And someone just brought something up here. Oh, yes. Blinky 5656 says Conclave is a movie about the Pope dying and the Vatican scrambling to get a new one. Is this predictive programming? So this is an interesting question. Is it predictive programming that they had a movie come out last fall? The movie Conclave, based on the 2016 novel of the same name by a novelist, Robert Harris. The film explores the political machinations surrounding the election of a new pope. It's a fictionalized account inspired by the 2005 papal conclave, the one that got us Pope Benedict XVI. So the question here is it predictive programming? I would say no, because who would I would say it's in bad taste. Who would think it's extraordinary that a pope dies at 88? Like, that's an age that you would expect. I don't think it's that. I think it's remarkable that it was on Easter. But I think the timing of the movie was just good marketing. They knew it was going to be relevant any day. I would say, please don't make the movie until after I'm gone, but I haven't seen it. Girl says, so no one is to blame, right? Least of all the cops, the courts, the Pentagon, the DOJ, DHS, FBI, they're all innocent because it's fake and entertainment, right? Can we ignore the consequences? Well, I would ask, who are the victims? If the events are fake, like, for example, let's take, one of the popular fake school shootings. If there weren't any victims, who are you going to be mad at? You could be mad at them for lying, but not for committing an atrocity. And there's a huge difference between propaganda and literal war crimes. And I'm not going to treat propaganda as a war crime. I think these are magnitudes. There's a magnitude of difference between these two things. And then furthermore, you don't know who's behind this stuff. I don't know who's behind it. All we can do is point to the structure of it. And it seems to me that anytime they tell you, oh, this group's behind it, it's generally something of a red herring. And I'm not going to get enraged and mad about crimes that are fake. There's a big difference between looking at this thing as the psyop entertainment complex and an oppressive government regime committing acts of terrorism against us, which is not happening. 9/11 truth was a fraud, and they got people mad at government, at Israel, at reptilians. They just had all these scapegoats, and they were all incorrect. Nobody was to blame in that traditional sense. So at this point, no, I'm not pointing fingers at as though this is a whodunit. If you think it's a whodunit, you're looking at it wrong. It's a what is it? Until you can define what it is, I don't think we need to start trying to figure out who's responsible as though we know what it is. It's a little premature. especially if you can't tell real from fake. And a lot of people are reality impaired by design. So if you're not aware of psyops and hoaxes and special effects and news-bent reality, fake history, then your frame of reference is askew. Moreover, this is not a conspiracy theory. The news is fake. Often it is, not all of it's fake. Nobody would say that, but there's a significant amount of news is propaganda contrivances and fakery, simulations that lead the dominant narratives. Knowing this and seeing how far back it goes, it's safe to say that history is also bent. So our collective worldview is bent. So so if you're trying to blame somebody, I'm like, you don't even know where or when you are. This is my analogy. Getting mad and trying to stop the system or figuring out who's behind it right now would be like walking into an insane asylum and trying to get all the patients to rise up and take over the hospital. It's like these people are all lost in their own subjective universes. They are in no position to be organized. You're in no position to be organizing anybody. If you should be mad at anybody, you should be mad at yourself for being fooled, and then get over it and stop being fooled. I haven't been tricked by a news story in a long time. When that airplane hit the helicopter, was I getting mad at female pilots? No, not at all, because I knew it was a hoax. But I had to wait for more evidence. But I just thought, well, it's a little convenient that it happens against the backdrop of this Mel Gibson film, Flight Risk, among other things that had us looking at it as specifically psyop-y. And it turns out it happened in the context of a drill, as I predicted. So how does that happen? How are we predicting these things? I don't make predictions with some sort of a crystal ball. I'm just recognizing the pattern and the MO, their standard operating procedure, the way they do things. So when it came to that event and subsequent events, I look at these things impartially. I wait for more information. And at this point, I'm the only person exposing the real conspiracy. If you're going to accuse me of protecting the system because I'm not telling people to get mad, I'm like, well, getting mad's never solved anything, and no mob has ever achieved anything. It's the ideas that matter. And we're the only think tank on the internet accurately describing the scenario. Just because I'm not trying to put cops and politicians to the guillotine doesn't make me less concerned with truth than some outraged red pill addict. And if you're outraged, if you're triggered, in my view, you're a victim. I'm not triggered. I am not triggered. I'm the only person identifying this properly, and that's why I'm not triggered. Like, what are you mad about? If you're still mad about 9/11, what makes you mad? If nobody died, what part in particular upsets you? And again, I think that this is it's a cliche thing that to be a woke person on the left or to be awake as a truther on the right is to be enraged. And if you're not mad, you're not paying attention. And I'm saying, no, if you're not auto-hoaxing, you're not paying attention. If you're not fundamentally rejecting every headline as real until proven fake, then you live in their closed system. It's a fictional universe. Like, we're past that. We're past 9/11 trutherism. Nobody here is Mandela affected. And I don't think we're operating under the premise that anything can be trusted as real until proven fake, especially in the age of deep fakery. Like, the mass media lost the benefit of the doubt. Unless something's changed. And I don't think anything's changed. We're still predicting the fakery with regularity. All right, so let's look at the rest of the things on the list, and then we'll move forward. David Weiss's Jeranism with beef, his beef with Jeranism. This is getting good. Jeranism is a full-blown ball earther now. He's just one step away from embracing Apollo 11. Like, he's completely anti-flat earther. He never went from flat earth, or rather ball earth, to agnosticism. Like, I don't know. He went from ball earth to flat earth model back to ball earth model. And I said back when this channel started, if you have a model, you're operating under the false premise that you have enough information to be conclusive. You can reject the mainstream, but you have no reason to embrace the flat earth model because you haven't checked out the edges of it. You haven't checked the parameters. You haven't tested it. Well, he finally tested his flat Earth model, found it to be false, so now he's back on the ball. But he never went to agnosticism, which is a reasonable and rational position unless you're going to start trusting the space agencies, which he evidently does. He saw the curve out the window of a Jeff Bezos rocket. He's like, oh, there's the curve. I mean, how do you go from one extreme to the other like that? I don't know. It just seems to me a little abrupt. It means that they never actually got it in the first place. This goes for Paul on the Ball, Robbie Davidson, Patricia Steer, and Jeranism. They never got this thing in the first place. They were operating under the premise that they had enough information to arrive at a model, and then that kind of steered them. In his defense, Mark Sargent has been consistent. I think his model isn't even a model. He believes we're in a video game. It's kind of an anti-model. It's not quite shape agnosticism. He still does outright reject science, but he's correct in not running to the ball because the flat Earth AE map straw man was burned. Like, who really cares about that? Psy Girl, I think you're misrepresenting my position here. I'm not an activist. I think all activists are dupes. If you want to go burn trash cans and punch cops or fight Antifa, throw bricks, loot, be my guest. But to me, that is the whole point of this thing. They want you in the political horseshoe, and I'm not in it. I'm off-world stage, ivory tower. I'm an inactivist, and I'm a conscientious objector to the Psy war. If you're taking sides in it, like an anti-vaxxer, in my view, you're a propagandist. You're controlled opposition. And I'm not marching behind controlled opposition claptrap. I don't think RFK Jr. or Donald Trump are heroes. I don't think Elon Musk is my savior. I see it all as a rigged game, and I'm just not in it. But if you want to be in it, be in it. And if you want to be woke, be woke. And I would argue that Trutherville is just the right-wing version of Woke Town. And I'm not woke. And if you're woke, good for you. You have somebody to blame, and you're a victim, and you're morally righteous. Good for you. But I'm more interested in objectively understanding what is. And as far as I can tell, there are no other think tanks on the internet that have really unmasked what is the deliberate synchronization between entertainment and fake news. One way to put it, I think succinctly, is that what we're, as far as, in fact, I have something here. Here's how I described it. It is a standard part of our fake news programming. I was having this debate about this earlier today, and it just really comes down to simplifying it, I believe. I think it's been mystified. All we're saying is that fake news, which exists, simulated events, which are inserted into our historical timeline and treated as real, that the same, I guess, entity that orchestrates the propaganda doesn't just do it in the news. They do it in the entertainment as well. I have countless examples. I predict this stuff with regularity. So what is so hard about this premise that the same propagandists that have a ham-fisted, like really heavy-handed control over news, I mean, it looks like it's diverse opinions, but it's really not. It's boxed in. But is it a stretch to say that the same news fakers are also involved in manipulating the propaganda in entertainment? That there's any less of a monopoly over entertainment as there is over news? It's covert. Yeah, it's not in your face. It's not meant to be interpreted by the average news consumer. So, like, what I'm saying is that this worldview warfare, which is basically getting you all on the same sheet in terms of your worldview, it goes back as far as our recorded history. And our recorded history is as trustworthy as our nightly news. And if you can accept the idea that our history is completely fabricated, and you recognize that our news cycles are fabricated, or at least the fabricated portion dominates it, then where's the disconnect? It's continuous. There's a contiguous pattern here of fakery. Writing history. Now they call it news. What is the difference? Tell me, what is the difference between news and history? Is there a difference? What's the difference? A history book is news on top of news on top of news, week, month, year, just down through the centuries. It's a bunch of accounts of what happened day by day. That's news. Our fake news mixed with our real news has created our collective backdrop, our shared worldview, our shared history. So we can point to our history, our recent history, 10, 20, 30, 40 years, and say, yeah, our history has been tampered with. We don't know when we are. We don't know where or anything. I mean, unless you have information, I don't. But I don't rest on any kind of certainty that we have an objective worldview broadcast on any platform. The world stage construct is pure subjectivity, always has been. It's just infusing your lived experience with hyperstitions and myths, contemporary myths. And this isn't even a conspiracy. It's not even a bold claim. I mean, look what religion has done. Look what cults have done. As long as we've had cults and religions, we've had people put into boxes mentally by rulers, by a priest class. It's no different. And so the idea that we're going to call out the fakery in some department, like, oh, the FBI are lying, and it's going to be exposed, it doesn't work that way. Like, our input isn't actually relevant. And we're not even censored. We're just not acknowledged. Those who are censored are heavily promoted. The most censored man on earth was just on Tucker Carlson for the 15th time. You think Alex Jones is censored? No, he is the accepted controlled opposition. He's the other side of the coin. Defunding the FBI wouldn't change this. You can't change this, is what I'm saying. I'm saying we already lost. You've already been conquered. You're in no position to resist. Resistance is literally futile. What are you resisting? We only recently got a firmer grasp anyway, on objective reality once we determined how manipulated news media was or is. But now looking deeper and seeing how this even pertains to the entertainment adds another layer to it. But we were born into a worldview that represents the interests of a power elite. They have a monopoly on this stuff. Liars in high places. So the lie world order is incontestable. You can't really go after some department or fire somebody. The best we can do is get off the grid mentally. And you can't get off the grid mentally until you can accurately ascertain what you're actually saying. Can you see the Truman Show, or are you still in it? If you're in it, you can't see it. If you're in it, you think that this is ridiculous. You think that all these coincidences are just merely the result of random happenstance. Okay, well, I've got a long list, a growing list of coincidences. Such a long and extensive list that I, in fact, created a model based on this presupposition that these are not coincidences. And based on that, we've been making predictions with regularity. And I guarantee I'm not predicting the actions of a higher power. I'm not predicting synchronicity or some kind of magical or mystical effects. This isn't prophecy. This is actually propaganda analysis. And no, a Psy Girl says solipsism is what you're advocating. No, I'm saying that I'm rejecting solipsism, that the mainstream worldview is solipsistic. It is subjective. It is infused with hyperstitions, contemporary myths, and lies. I'm rejecting the lies. I am rejecting the lies of the filter, of the screen that people think is a window to the world. It's not a window. It's a filter. It's a distorter. So if I'm rejecting lies and I'm taking an agnostic stance on that which I can't prove, how am I being solipsistic? I am rejecting subjectivity in favor of objectivity and recognizing the difference. So no, I would also argue that this think tank is the only objectivist think tank on earth. You think Truth or Veil is objective? No, it's a bunch of paranoids who've been programmed to be paranoid. This is deprogramming. This is not solipsism. This is objectivism, and it doesn't exist. You can go to the Objectivist Society, and all of them believe everything on TV. They went through the screen into subjectivity with everybody else. But the only way out of this is first mentally getting off the grid and seeing the simulation they created and not mistaking it for the real thing. The map is not the territory. And no, hyperstition is an accurate term. These are superstitions. Chemtrails, superstition. 5G towers, superstition. Bowl cut mass shooters, superstitions. Terrorists hijacking airplane. These are all superstitions. Climate change. Planet killer asteroids, space junk. These things are all superstitions. But because they're reinforced by the echo chamber of media and the dominant paradigm's version of things, they're treated as real, so much so that they can tax us and regulate us and get us to do drills and prepare for these things as though they actually exist. Girl says no real consequences. Look, if you want to run around the guillotine, be my guest. I'm not headhunting. I'm not radicalizing this. I'm not interested in activists or people who think that you can solve problems with Molotov cocktails or anger or signs or shouting. To me, this is an intellectual revolt. I'm not all that emotional about it. I leave the emotions to the wokes and the alt wokes. And I'm just not alt woke. Girl says, no concrete material consequences. Look, if you want to go fight the deep state, get a MAGA hat, drink some Kool-Aid, and go run up the Capitol steps. But I'm not playing their game. So the answer is no. No. I'm an inactivist. And if you have a problem with that, well, I could say I have a problem with you being a participant in mind war. You're part of the problem, not the solution. If anything, you're a propaganda mule spreading red pill paranoia, which presumes the existence of all these things that we have called out as fake hyperstitions and myths. You want to radicalize a lot of people over deaths that didn't happen? It's no different than the Sandy Hook families. So no, I'm not an activist in this. And and look, one more point here. You accuse me of being passive. I'm saying you're passive. That if you're taking in the media, the headlines, the stories as though real and reacting, you're passive. You're passively accepting lies. I am actively parsing the lies before they ever get past my critical thinking filters. I am actively analyzing news media and propaganda before accepting it passively. So no, I would argue that truthers, wokesters, and alt-wokesters are all passive propaganda receptacles. Your mind is a trash can for the New World Order. And mine isn't. My lid is closed. So I would argue here that you've lost the moral high ground and the intellectual high ground if you're not deliberately unmasking the fakery. Not just the fake events that every truther can call fake, but I mean the deeper levels of fakery, the total orchestration of worldview through framing the collective frame of reference by co-opting entertainment, celebrities, and news. It's monolithic. It's bigger than the truthers think. You can run mad around one or two fake trees, but the whole forest is fake. I'm here to clear cut the forest. That's all we're doing. You should look at our wiki. We've made more progress in this think tank in 2 years than 9/11 Truth has since they existed. 9/11 truthers never figured it out. They're alt woke. They're victims of the mind war, and I'm not. And no, I'm not advocating. Here's why. I'm not going to organize with the brainwashed. You think I want to go tell a bunch of brainwashed people what to do? No, I'm not interested. We here are forming the core of a third branch of media. You've got your mainstream, you've got your alternative, but there's got to be a platform for those who aren't playing into the rigged game, who aren't operating under the false presumptions that this stuff is real, that these myths are things that we need to take seriously. So no, I'm not organizing or boycotting with the brainwashed. I'm not in the asylum. I see no point to trying to rally up the people in the asylum. No thanks. We've got a much better position, a much better approach. And you could stay in Trutherville, hit that Q pipe, go to Alex Jonestown, drink the Kool-Aid. We'll still be here. I mean, Trutherville is a mess. It's worse these days. It's all clickbait trutherism these days. Look, I'm open to criticism. You can tell us we're wrong or whatever in your opinion, but show us where we're wrong. Show me where we are mistaken, and then we'll build on that. But as of right now, I would argue that we have made the case for a different model of media, an active approach, and this active approach takes into account media fakery, psyops, and the accumulated effect of decades of provable fakery and what that has done to what we call history. So you have to be on objective ground to even be in a position to revolt. And you're subjective. You're in a subjective world, a fictional universe. You're not in a position to intellectually revolt. The only thing you can do is emote and get mad at people who don't want to chop off heads. But I'm saying no, like Luigi, there are people saying Luigi's the right answer. Go shoot CEOs. I'm like, that's disgusting. It's disgusting and it's pathetic. It's lowbrow and it's more than half the country. So I don't stand by that kind of stuff, and I recognize it for what it is. It's just evil, filth, propaganda, agitation, and I'm not going to take the opposite stance. Like, oh, let's start fantasizing and agitating about the mass arrests of the Democrats and mass executions in Guantanamo, like the Q people. That's indicative of religiosity, and most people treat media like their religion. I'm like, oh, you're not in my religion. Something's wrong with you. Like, why don't you do your religion instead of trying to convert people to it? Just live your faith. They're always trying to convert people. I'm not trying to convert people. In fact, what I've been doing this entire time, well, rather, we've emphasized for the last 2 years, is we have been separating. I said this is a quarantine. This is a separatist movement. This third branch of media is not for mainstream. It's not for the woke. It's not for people who are still triggered and programmed and brainwashed. And I'm not programmed by alt media propagandists. They don't infect me. I observe them. I don't know, Psy Girl. I don't think you have a point here. I don't think you have a point, because until you are putting the nature of this thing in its proper context, you're not in a position to be an activist. Think about the Q morons, the real ones, the real Q people who go commit crimes, get arrested, make threats, get arrested, or these idiots who go key up the cyber trucks. Yeah, these people are playing into the Psywar and they're getting themselves into trouble because they're taking it too seriously. To me, that's activism. To me, that's part of the problem. And I'm not going to be played like that. So you're trying to criticize me for what now? For not believing in your mythologies? For not believing that people really died? I mean, what exactly is our difference here? And yes, I did join the military back when I was brainwashed. I was in high school. I was 18. I joined the military, 1 station unit training, 6 months in Fort McClellan, Alabama. Had a couple MOSs. I hated it, but I never missed a formation, and I did very well. I had a honorable discharge. They tried to keep me in. They tried to offer me PLDC, sergeant stripes. Instead, I went to air assault school, and I got out because I hated the life. I didn't hate it. It just wasn't for me. I didn't like constantly being around people. I wanted to use my GI Bill. So yes, I went into the military, but I don't know how that is a strike against my character. I used what I learned in the military as a 92 Mike, which is mortuary affairs, to get a job at the Office of the Medical Investigator, where I did decedent transport for homicides, suicides, car wrecks, accidents. And so I was hauling dead bodies and cleaning up crime scenes for a couple of years. Became an embalmer. But what I'm saying is that, like, I was brainwashed. I wasn't even paying attention to the news until I think it was the Charleston shooting with Dylan Roof. That's when I started to look at these things critically. And then after that, I came across the whole topic of NASA fakery. And I started looking at the esoteric side of NASA's, and I was like, okay, wait, there's something going on here. And then I saw the flat Earth thing, but my position was the best we can do right now, because I was already leaning towards this, is agnosticism. Even before I even saw any content on NASA fakery, I had already been kind of rethinking my model of the world, given the prevalence that intuition and precognition had, and synchronicity. These various aspects of whatever you want to call it, consciousness, made me think that there's more to the world than simply the scientific paradigm we've been given. Not that it contradicts it. I mean, it's not really about shape, but I'm saying there's more than what we've been told, which, is just basic spirituality, mysticism, trying to figure out what's beyond. But so at that point, when I saw people questioning the shape of the world, I thought, well, we're questioning the fundamental nature of reality when we're speculating. So why is this a big deal? But what I immediately saw was the problem of reaching for a Bible, like reject science, reach for the Bible. That was a step back. That was regressive. The Bible Earthers, the Bible Earth movement, all regressive. Their rejection of science, alarming. If anything, there just needs to be a distinction between the scientific method and science becoming a belief system. Psy Girl, I don't know what you're saying. You said you're subsidizing the perps, making them rich doesn't bother you. Look, I'm not going to go Luigi somebody because I don't think it's a whodunit at this stage. Again, you're not in a position right now to point out culprits until you can at least define what it is. Like when I said that Stanley Kubrick did 9/11 and not Osama bin Laden, yeah, I was being facetious, but it's more true than not. It's more accurate to say that Kubrick did 9/11 than Osama bin Laden. And if that doesn't make sense to you, then you're not informed. Because we're talking about movies, propaganda movies, superimposed over the news cycle with regularity. It happens all the time. And Kubrick is just one of many directors who's been co-opted by government. There's many of them. So I don't understand this hyper focus on Stanley Kubrick, but he's one of the best. He's one of the shining examples of meta scripting. He's one of the greats, if you want to look at it from a pure aesthetic perspective, and the use of his movies and their role in shaping culture or elucidating or describing the zeitgeist. But Kubrick's films and many other movies paved the way, set the stage for 9/11, as well as a lot of the fake news leading up to it. But looking at news and entertainment as separate is fallacious. It's actually just uninformed. So at this point, we can point to public figures. Like, okay, we can point to people in the know at various levels. Like, okay, Kate Perry knows space is fake. Unequivocally, Katy Perry knows space is fake. So there we have one. I think we can safely say that Tom Cruise knows it's fake for a few reasons. But I think we could also add to that when going down the list, like, for example, the police chief at Maui, the police chief at Las Vegas during the Harvest Festival, that person's in the know. And we could put a list of reporters, of directors, of politicians who would necessarily be in the know about fakery. And we're getting a bigger picture here. But it's not so clear-cut as programmed and programmers, because the programmers are all programmed, except in that narrow area of interest where they're particularly involved. So just because you know that they're faking terror attacks doesn't mean that you know that they fake mass shootings or space travel. But being a part of any of it should at least give you some awareness about the capacity of government-controlled media to lie, to tell big, big lies. So I'm pointing out here the fact that these big lies are coming from the top down. So you can get mad at the crisis actor, the cop, but honestly, every single psyop, from a terror attack, a fake mall shooting, would involve police, law enforcement, Department of Homeland Security, politicians, all the media entities. To some degree, there's an interlocking network, but it goes all the way from the top down. And it's not simply a fake news story to win political points. These are pages in our history book. These are pages in our history book. And okay, now let me ask you one more thing, because Psy Girl, you keep on saying that I'm supporting the system. I'm the only one accurately describing it. And if you look at the big picture, where do you think this goes? The whole concept of a third branch of media is that we take people out of Trutherville. They're paying for those red pills. They're paying for those Q pipes, the Mentonol. Alex Jones charges them for the Kool-Aid at Alex Jonestown. They're paying for that. Their money, their time, their attention, their social media capital, all of it is going into that black hole. So what I'm doing is I'm creating a separate platform off world stage for those who aren't falling for the alternative BS and already know the mainstream BS is all built upon an edifice of lies. And so as we break people away, what do you think we're doing? We're defunding the psyop entertainment complex. Every subscriber to IPS is one less person feeding the alternative media platforms. We're criticizing it, we're discrediting it, and we're attempting to create a breakaway so it can hemorrhage. My objective, and I've been pretty open about this, one of my target goals is to do $1 billion in damage in terms of the amount of money they're going to have to spend on damage control to undo what we're going to do. So I think we are in the right here. And if you're in Trutherville and you're still fighting in the political horseshoe, you're in the wrong. And you're the one feeding the beast. I'm here trying to get a shank into its side and bleed it out. Nobody else is doing that. You're feeding the beast. Anyway, Tucker Carlson tells Alex Jones that a false flag attack disguised as a fight against racism will be used to shut down free speech on social media. He says people will be manipulated into giving up their rights. So again, this is Alex Jones on Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson was just in the oldest Masonic lodge in Ireland with Conor McGregor just the other day. So here's Tucker Carlson, alien attack survivor, and Alex Jones. He says the only questions left are when it will happen and who the target will be. He says, quote, actors on social media are deliberately creating the tension needed to trigger it. So look at this for a second. Provocateurs create tensions. They're out there to hype up division. That's what predictive programming does. That's what concurrent programming does. That's what entertainment does. It helps form your frame of reference for the outrage to come. So let's listen to this for just a moment, because I think it's interesting that Sinners just came out about white vampires, racist South, 1930s. I'm going to go watch it here in about 45 minutes. And I'm like, wait a minute here. We have this recent racially charged psyop being made racially charged by right-wingers like Jake Lang. And now we have Tucker Carlson and Tucker Carlson and Alex Jones talking about an upcoming false flag based on race.
I want to make a prediction because I just want to be on tape saying
I want to make a prediction, he's saying. And he was complimenting Alex Jones on predicting 9/11. Girl says 10 to 20 million illegal immigrants imported from 2024 are all imaginary. You know, I heard that same thing before Trump got elected.
I want to make.
And let me add one more thing. Xenophobia is promoted by Tucker Carlson, who also promotes the fear of aliens. He says extraterrestrials are demons, and one of them attacked me in my bed and left scars. So I'm pointing out here that part of the psyop targeting the right side of the political horseshoe is fear of aliens, terrestrial and extraterrestrial. Not a coincidence Trump was talking about illegal aliens when they pierced his ear with the AR-15. So the fact that you're worried about 20 million illegal immigrants means that you've been rendered paranoid about that particular psyop. I've heard of this psyop. First time I heard Michael Savage, I remember on the radio, he was talking about illegal immigrants, MS-13 coming across the border, pretty scary stuff. Then Trump's getting into office, same thing, pretty scary stuff. Every time there's an election, they talk about the borders, build the wall, immigrants. And interestingly enough, when you look at the attitudes here, right-wingers are scared of aliens and illegal aliens. Lefties love aliens from space, and they love illegal aliens. It's a bifurcated psyop. You're alt woke. If you're scared of illegal immigrants, you're alt woke. If you're anti-immigrant, you're alt woke. If you're pro-immigrant, you're just woke. I'm anti-pro, anti-anti. I don't think it's a thing. So no, I'm not worried about immigrants. I'm not worried about aliens. Nor am I expecting aliens, nor am I pro anything at this point. Okay, here we go. This is Tucker Carlson making a prediction.
I want to make a prediction because I just want to be on tape saying this. I'm going to say it again even more clearly this time. And of course, I hope I'm wrong. I pray I'm wrong. But I do think a lot of the really crazy, bitter ethnic hate that you see on social media is fake. It's people were saying it don't mean it. I think it's like, the Klansmen you'd see marching and you're like, there are no Klansmen. And you're like, what? And of course you find out that it's fake. And it's designed to convince people that there's like a lot of.
Now he's talking about what he thinks is an exaggerated sense of division created by the internet, which is likely true. You have people like Stu Peters, Nick Fuentes, who don't really believe what they're saying, but they promote the stuff 24/7. They actively promote xenophobia. Tucker Carlson is a huge part of this. So is Alex Jones. So it's kind of funny how they're acting like they're not actually part of this whole problem. Both of them are fear merchants. Like I'm pointing out, it's not a coincidence that Tucker Carlson wants you to think that ET is a demon and that you should fear illegal immigrants. The whole fear of the alien is a psyop that specifically targets the right wing. It's a psyop. The whole idea of blood purity ties into anti-vax. Blood purity. These are all psyops. It's about borders. You have to look at it from a Freudian perspective, symbolism, subliminals. You're talking about one side is especially agitated about border security, walls, skin, the needle, front doors, your home borders. And the other side's like, no, open borders, open skin, and welcoming to the aliens. Like these are not coincidences.
Roiling ethnic hatred that doesn't really exist. And that's a predicate.
Yeah, Patriot Front.
Exactly. It's Charlottesville, but that's happening online right now. And I know that it is. And I think that at some point, I pray I'm wrong.
Okay, so he invokes Charlottesville, which happened after Michael Brown, hands up, don't shoot. And Charlottesville is where Nick Fuentes got started with America First, where he's marching through the town chanting, "They will not replace us," which goes into replacement theory, white genocide stuff. I think Cygirl says the Calgary plan. Yeah, white genocide is a hoax. And what's funny is the white genocide people are exactly projecting whenever they criticize Israel and Jews. It's like they're making all the same arguments. They're basically saying we're victims of a genocide and you guys don't believe us. You're denying yes, I'm denying your white Holocaust. There is no white genocide. Nobody's replacing you. I mean, another bifurcated psyop. Both left and right say there's a population crisis. Elon Musk says there's a population crisis. He means we're running out of people. We need more. The left is like, there's too many people. We need less. Like, which is it? Do we have too many people or not enough people? It can't be both. So again, these are red pill psyop issues that are meant to trigger you. If you're triggered by fears of you're being genocided or illegal immigrants or alien invasions, these are all psyops. You can grasp that the alien invasion's a psyop. Everybody knows. Oh, they're going to fake an alien invasion. Well, no, the illegal alien invasion is also fake. I'm not saying there's not a problem. I'm not saying governments are perfect, but what I'm saying is the way that it's talked about in political circles as a political football is pure propaganda. You have no direct evidence otherwise. It's funny how perception can be so myopic. When you just get everything through the internet. I saw some guy coming through Albuquerque on YouTube doing a documentary because Albuquerque is it's the 9th most violent city in America, 20th in the world, and one of the highest addiction rates. And they only drive through this one really bad part of town. And they create this perception. And I live here, and it's like, it's really easy, I think, using the frame of reference.
But there's going to be an act of violence
to create a completely different version of things. And the media does it all the time. So here is Tucker Carlson predicting some kind of act of violence having to do with race.
Bill, but that's happening online right now, and I know that it is. And I think that at some point, I pray I'm wrong, but there's going to be an act of violence, ethnic inspired violence, of hate inspired violence, actual hate, like killing people. And I really hope I'm wrong, but I feel like this is real, and that event will be used to shut down free speech on social media.
Okay, so both these individuals agree that there's going to be some kind of violence involving a racial hate group like Patriot Front, killing a bunch of BLMs, something like that, and this will be used to shut down free speech. So what I'm pointing out here is that he's making a prediction that it's going to happen for real. I'm predicting, based on his prediction, that they're going to fake something. Somebody in the chat says, David Polk says, white replacement happened in my state. I have 2 eyes that work. I don't know. A lot of people have eyes that work and they believe in chemtrails. So you have to also consider your frame of reference, your bias. What state are you in that doesn't have white people? Like, just name the state and I'll do a little search through the census and we'll see if it's true. Are you the last white person in your state? Have you all been replaced? Are you a survivor, a lone survivor of a genocidal plot?
100.
Because that is the threat. And you saw with TikTok, like, oh, we need to ban TikTok because China owns it. No, nothing to do with China. It had everything to do with opinions that the people in charge didn't like being expressed there. And it's like, we're just going to, and the Congress went along with it. But if there's an act of violence and innocents are murdered, and I pray that doesn't happen because I hate that above all, but it has happened and I feel like it could happen again. And people say, and a lot of good people will go along with it, just like they went along with the censorship of you and the destruction of your life because they were told, like, he's bad. He had
Okay, this is the same thing that Candace Owen had suggested, although she had suggested more of
with murdering children,
a computer virus. But I've been saying disease X. This is what I'm talking about, disease X. The mind virus they use as a justification for censorship of the internet, for locking it down, for quarantining the internet. Dave Polk, what state are you in? If you're going to be in here, I'm not gaslighting you. I'm saying that believing your own eyes is a little simplistic. You have to also know how to interpret what you're seeing. People say, what are they spraying? Well, your eyes may give you the illusion they're spraying, but there's not a spray coming out. That's hot air, jet exhaust. It's not a, quote, spray. The eyes might have you think one thing, but your reasoning tells you something else. Go to a magic show. Are you going to believe your eyes? Go to a magic show. I would advise you, don't believe your eyes. So when I tell you don't believe your eyes, I'm just telling you think about what you're seeing and your frame of reference and any contextual information. So I want to know what state you're in that doesn't have any white people left. Oh, you're in California? See, you're probably wrong about that. I think you probably need to get out a bit more. All right, let's move on. I'm glad that I don't see things through a racial prism. Honestly, I think it's very limiting. I think it would be depressing as hell. Like, I'm glad I'm not where you are, because I don't go around with some kind of like racial lens where I'm categorizing people strictly on an external basis of what they look like. That's not where I'm at. And I think that's what they want us to be. All right, so this is Tucker Carlson saying there's going to be a race war psyop. So we can look forward to that. Jake Lang, Protect White America, was trying to get the father of Austin Metcalf to treat his son like a white Trayvon Martin. And the guy wasn't taking anything to do with it, but it also seems a little bit structured. So I thought, this is interesting. They seem to be setting the stage for some other type of George Floyd-like incident. That's what it looks like to me. And then you add to this the movie Sinners, and it has me thinking maybe something's up between this Austin Metcalf. WEF founder and chairman Klaus Schwab resigns. The Easter weekend brings a change in leadership at the World Economic Forum. So what do we make of this? What do we make of this? The Pope and Klaus Schwab exit the world stage, age of 88 on Easter 2025. Coincidence? Is there a deeper meaning? What do they? I mean, they both represent something. World Economic Forum, the papacy. They're both, there's some kind of similar kind of a template at work here, especially when you think of Klaus Schwab and his Darth Vader costume. Okay, let's see here. David Polk says, when you barely hear English, it's hard to ignore. But you have to admit to me that you are being facetious when you say that you're the lone survivor of a genocide, and there's no white people in California but you. Like, I think we all know that you don't really mean that. Touch grass, as they say. MAGA activist accused of cat murder. This is a page from the Insider, and this is a pretty blatant example of animal abuse done for clicks. So the story is, and this is true, I investigated this independently. A White House aide named Garrett Ziegler was being sued by Hunter Biden after his company got custody of Hunter Biden's laptop and published it. Well, he had lost $300,000 in legal fees fighting against Hunter Biden, and he needed to raise money. To raise money for legal fees, he claims somebody put a dead cat on his mother's porch and a death threat. Well, he posted a picture of the death threat and the dead cat at the George News website. George News is in the White House press corps. So you have this White House guy and Garrett Ziegler, two White House guys who are buddies going back 8 years. And to raise money for their legal defense, they created this psyop where they claim that somebody threatened them about the case with a dead cat. So obviously they're kind of framing Hunter Biden for this. Now, I saw this thinking, wait a minute here. This is one of two things. It's either a real dead cat and a real threat and a real crime, or it's a hoax to get clicks. Either way, where did the dead cat come from and where did it go? If it's a fake dead cat, they should own up to it because they use that to raise money. If it's a real dead cat, where is it? So I contacted the chief of police in Altamont, Illinois, and I had the address. I tracked the whole thing. And I asked him, I said, hey, on this date, in this part of town, this family's house, did they report this event? And I sent him the email. Did they report a death threat and a dead cat, animal abuse? And he got back to me. The chief of police of the small town, he said there were no threats reported. There were no reports of dead cats. So I asked him, what do I do with this? So I called PETA. I made an FBI report. I reported that there is an example of animal abuse put online, and they've never found it. So they have to find it. They will have to dig the cat up, and they will have to do a necropsy and find out, did Garrett Ziegler strangle the cat? Did he poison it? Or was it fake? But I don't think this is something that we should just let go. This needs to be investigated because somebody's cat is missing and they did it for clicks. So all the information you need is right there. All the information is already in the hands of the FBI, and I will be following up with this. So check this out. Human Vibration found this. Dulce Biach said, it's crazy how some people need no proof to believe a lie, but demand endless proof to accept the truth. Usamo Reo said, it's crazy how some people need no proof to believe a lie, but demand endless proof to accept truth. Notice, too, their capitalization are all the same. Director Cilia says, it's crazy how some people need no proof to believe a lie, but demand endless proof to accept the truth. Thrilla the Gorilla says, it's crazy how some people need no proof to believe a lie, but demand endless proof to accept the truth. And more and more. This same tweet has been said by many, many people. All kinds of Twitter accounts, all saying the same thing. So I think she's right to investigate it. to ask the question, oh, this is ironic. This is ironic. Okay, so the channel is Maverick 6807, Maverick X. Now, Maverick X had responded. He said, I just like the quote, so I shared it. So I looked him up, and he was one of these accounts that would show pictures of Britney Spears and say, what do you see? And you're supposed to say, I think it's a man. You know, it's one of these stupid accounts that's just always farming for clicks. Well, anyway, I had blocked him like 8 months ago, or he blocked me, because I put him on my list of clickbait truthers. So it's kind of interesting that he is literally taking this. So what I'm saying is he and many other accounts on X are all bots. They're all centrally organized, and they create this echo chamber effect. And I know now because I have bots of my own. I have 2 different bot accounts on Blue Sky. I've got one on X. Not just bots, but AI agents that interact with people. So now that I'm getting a better idea of how it works, I'm getting a little better at recognizing these accounts. Now, interestingly, this account that I'm referencing no longer exists. I guess he got called out by too big a channel and deleted everything. A couple other things. This isn't a huge deal, but I think it's worth kind of pointing out here, just more evidence of something. So I mentioned the cat killers. So this individual in George News, who's part of the Q psyop, has a YouTube channel, Anonymous Q. So if you go to this YouTube channel, you will see that he hasn't uploaded a video in 18 years. And the channel has 9 subscribers, and it's only been looked at a few dozen times. So you have this old channel called Anonymous Q. Now, interestingly enough, because, of course, I've been following this person for some time as I've been investigating him as part of my lawsuit on the matter, I saw this, I guess, evidence of something fishy going on here. So here's what I found. Anonymous Q. If you take it to the Wayback Machine and you look back just 4 or 5 years, what do you get? Same account, 70,000 subs, same account, 200 plus videos, all from the State Department and the White House. So you can look here, same account, Anonymous Q. So if you go to the Wayback Machine, you can see that this account has not been dormant for 18 years. It was being run out of the White House by White House press corps George News. And he was uploading videos from the State Department, from the military, Department of Defense. You can see for yourself. Same account. So somehow this popular QAnon Trumper account with tens of thousands of subs, big live streams, big revenue earner in terms of, I guess, super chats and ad revenue. Now suddenly it magically reverted to a channel that hasn't been used in 18 years. I saw similar examples of mainstream magazines hiding this person's username. I've seen many examples where they will, this guy's been scrubbed, is what I'm saying. So this is evidence right here at the Wayback Machine of a White House guy connected to the Q psyop being scrubbed by YouTube. I mean, how does this happen? How is that possible? Well, I think it's kind of self-explanatory. We're looking at somebody with some connections to the government, media, entertainment complex, the psyop entertainment complex. Okay, focus on the fakery. I wonder if we should talk about this. I think we've talked about this enough. I think we've made our point. I think we've made our point regarding fake news, psyops, media entrainment through entertainment. I think that we've established that there's a different model that should be adopted when examining news and entertainment. And I think we have the evidence to support our stance. And I'm just going to continue to build on it. So let's move on. So here is Jake Lang with the Protect White People crowd. And he's at this, I guess he's at a press conference where the stabber of Austin Metcalf or his family is there, and he's trying to get the father to use his dead son as a cause for protecting white lives.
Would you be willing to stand by me in a press conference or in an individual interview and talk about this issue that is larger than Austin at this point? God rest the beautiful young man's soul that would have been one of our strongest voices if he was still alive today.
Would have been one of our strongest voices. I don't know what he means by that. I don't know if he would have become a MAGA trooper or something. But this is Jake Lang talking to the father of Austin Metcalf, who's on the phone.
Yes, I am, sir.
Okay, my turn to speak. You are part of the fucking problem, my friend.
Now, it's kind of garbled. I can't hear it. But what he's saying to Jake Lang is, you're part of the problem. So they're making this point here to show that there's an active attempt by provocateurs to turn this into some kind of a race psyop. And we see the father himself rejecting this. Hey, take a look at this. This is a video. Look on the left. A lot of these go viral. These are Boston Dynamics robots, and people think these things are real. On the right, you can see how it's fake and how they're using a human actor as the basis for this animated character. What I always find interesting about it is it's a reality test. It's interesting to see these viral videos and how many people think these things are real. It just shows how there's not a lot of vetting. It's what I call low information beliefs. David Polk says Adolf Hitler haircut. Oh, yes. Jake Lang's haircut, Adolf Hitler haircut, absolutely the same. By design, they call it the fasci haircut. Kate Perry discusses her transcendental meditation. Now, I thought this was interesting to bring up simply because my contention that space travel is all just allegory for higher states of consciousness. That there may be an esoteric meaning behind it. Besides the fakery and the entire science fiction paradigm, I do think that NASA is a more recent iteration of the mystery schools. And Kate Perry talks about her, quote, higher self. Well, the term higher self is specifically from the OTO, Aleister Crowley. They popularized that term. And so it's all coming together here, I think. Let me play this clip. Kate Perry discusses the transcendental meditation.
I've been able to learn transcendental meditation for about 15 years, and that changed my life. And, you know, I've gone on a long inner space journey.
Okay, so inner space journey. And that's kind of what I mean. That outer space is a metaphor for inner space, higher states of consciousness. And even when it comes to the purpose of the space program, it's about programming your inner space, your mind, your world view. This is the stage that you live upon.
To untangle some wires, to answer some questions, to become more grounded, to find the power within myself that I've spoken about, that my higher self knows because I wrote Firework, but to access that power even more. And I think that when I can lead by example, it just ripples. That's it. And you can start so small. I have
this almost seems reminiscent of a Scientology word salad. When you hear Scientologists talk about knowingness and beingness, and they get away from reality, like, what are they really saying? Like, I mean, I don't doubt that she's meditated a bit, but it's almost like they're deliberately obfuscating anything objective you could attach yourself to. So it's just like, you know, they kind of blind you with these I guess quasi-mystic explanations for like outer space. And like they always talk about how space is so beautiful, you achieve the overview effect. Like, oh, you go up so high that you've unlocked another level of consciousness. You no longer see nations. Everything is one. Okay, continuing. Girl says, I wouldn't even know who this media slut is without watching YouTube videos. Is she a performer? I think the only reason why she's kind of attached to this in the way that she is that I think she was pro Hillary Clinton. And I think she even wrote a song for Kamala Harris. And they dressed up this launch as a feminist thing, feminist taking up space. So it was meant to be very impactful from that perspective. And so she's kind of an icon in that manner. I'm not really a huge listener of her music. I don't necessarily think she's John Benet Ramsey, as Dave J contends. And I could see why people would think so, maybe, or how they could maybe find it to be somewhat believable. You could create that perception if you had limited pictures, some early pictures of the parents and late pictures of Kate Perry's parents. But the older pictures, or rather the pictures of the aged parents of John Benet Ramsey, are clearly not the same people as Kate Perry's parents. So a lot of the times when it comes to these extreme claims, you have to just get broader context. Like, you could convince somebody that pandas don't exist if you only show them 5 or 6 cherry-picked TikTok videos. Sometimes you don't have enough information to believe something, and you also may not have enough information to disbelieve something. That's why it's of paramount importance that we become skeptics and we wait to decide. You suspend your judgment. Like, I don't have enough information to know that this person was really stabbed. School Shooter says, question, do you know those are her actual parents? Well, there is a continuity. There's a timeline of their appearances that add up. So there is this continuity there. If you compare them to Kate Perry's parents, they're only vaguely similar. And a lot of that could be attributed to maybe even the fashion at the time. But, if you have something conclusive, present it. I'm always interested in seeing. I've taken a look at some pretty extreme claims. Somebody said that The Weeknd is Justin Bieber in disguise. But I think what cancels that one out is the voices. They don't actually sound alike, I don't think.
My own foundation that I get to bring arts programming to 6th, 7th, and 8th graders called the Firework Foundation.
Okay, so that's Kate Perry. And a lot of people are calling this hilariously bad. They're noticing a lot of things about it that are anomalous. Forget the dummy hand. That's bad information, truth or bait. The door opening. According to one news article, they can open the door without any special tools. So all that says is that Jeff Bezos was symbolically opening the door, that it was all just a PR stunt, that they could have just opened it from the inside, if you believe it. Jaron does. In my opinion, they wouldn't risk the lives of these people on some ride that could turn out badly for the entire space program. Michelle K says her dress looks very Greek goddessy. Yeah, let's not forget that this is Holy Week, and we do have an actress, a musician, a performer, Kate Perry, who has appeared as Isis. What's that music video? The song she does with Juicy J. I think it's called Dark Horse. In that one, she shows up as Isis. So she's not really a stranger to goddess iconography. The color blue is the color of the priestess in the tarot card. That may be significant. But as far as the actual timing of it, I think that is significant. We're talking about Isis, Ishtar, Easter. So it, to me, is more ritual than anything else. Now, take a look at her face. She looks like she's doing a music video where she goes into space. And she's experiencing those G-forces. But is that really a G-force face? I don't know. Because look at this. This is what G-force does to the human face. Her face is melting. She looks like she's aged 80 or so years. Look, on the left, they're counting down. On the right, she's fully accelerating. Look at that face, just peeling off that skull. This did not happen to Kate Perry. No, Kate Perry looks like she's having a rather good time. Explain to me the discrepancy, Jaron. Shape traitor, pervert. No, I'm just kidding. When I say shape traitor, I'm being facetious because I'm shape agnostic. I'm shape ambivalent. Hey, what is up, Jungle Jim? Thanks for joining. Does anybody else think this is a discrepancy worth noting? How come their skin isn't peeling off their faces? And I was told that they even customized the chairs. They form fit the chair to the body of the astronaut to accommodate them with these intense G forces to make it, I guess, comfortable. So she's in a chair designed in such a way, presuming she's going to be confronting some significant G force. And looking at the picture, I don't think there is any. David Balling says, looks worse than the other rocket from Austin Powers. People believe anything that's on TV and they'll tell you it's real. I try to stay positive and say people have woken up, but it's still so many massive morons out there. It's unbelievable to me. Yeah, take note too. The entire right-wing media ecosystem called it fake. They all believe in Elon Musk's rockets. So what does that say? Infinite Plane Radio. Okay, well, let me get you on the screen really quick here. And by the way, we also, I'm on StreamYards now. And you know what? Now I think yes, it's good. StreamYards is good. Hey, can everybody hear Lynn okay?
So I apologize for that, but I don't really know how to connect. I had trouble connecting through my laptop, so this is just a regular old
No, we're good.
in the wall. If you can visualize this, it's a phone in the wall of my kitchen. You remember those? I still got one.
Let me ask you a question. So do you think that the Kate Perry rocket launch was an embarrassment or not?
Yeah, well, that's easy to answer. One, that's not the question we should be asking. The embarrassment, humiliation, and ridicule of it is self-evident. It's like you can't even. It's like being, when it rains, it pours. It's like you can't even look at it without being overwhelmed by. And of course, I know you're going to say a lot of that is just red pill, blue pill politics because I don't know. People hate Jeff Bezos, or his real name is Jorgensen. I don't know how he got the name Bezos. I'd like to read the story behind it.
Yeah, isn't it weird? Is Bezos like they're treating him like he's Democrat, feminist, and then Musk?
Well, there's Freddie. Who isn't Freddie Lake? Or who else is? Oh, Branson, Richard Branson. There's a whole, Elon Musk. I mean, it's a whole. As you say, it's a whole. It's like war. It's a. How do I put it? It's a multi-level marketing thing. You've got all these big celebrity figures that are in on it. No, you're asking the wrong question. Here's the because you're not answering the wrong question. That's obvious. That's self-evident truth. The real question we should all be asking ourselves is: was this a deliberate, controlled demolition? Are they taking down the old Hollywood? Because the net of this is people end up, and I think you pointed this out with James Woods, some of the others who were commenting on this.
Yes, yeah, James Woods, big voice calling it fake, and valuetainment.
Our question should be, as auto hoaxers, right? Was this a deliberate, controlled demolition? That is to say, did they deliberately make it so MIBOP, M-I-B-O-P, make it bad on purpose, or even better? Vincent Salandria used to say this about the JFK thing. He coined the term MITOP, M-I-T-O-P, made it transparent on purpose. So they put a little, what do you call that? An Easter egg in there.
Yeah, like, okay, we saw like planted bad evidence. Oh, look, it's a dummy hand. And look, the door open.
Well, the door is ridiculous. The whole production of the thing was ridiculous. And of course they could have made it better. People are, I heard people agonizing over this when it came to the new woke versions of Star Wars and the Marvel Comics movies, none of which I've seen. And of course, I grew up on real Marvel comics, but
do you think though that
Star Wars never impressed me that much? I said, "Oh, there's dazzling effects, but the scripts are silly and childish." Star Wars became a religion. It really did, and Joseph Campbell describes it. And what have they done? They've demolished that religion. For some reason, they're moving that franchise off the. They're just moving it off. They're getting off stage. They're getting rid of it. And people observe this, that the scripts for the most recent Star Wars films are essentially a controlled demolition or a self-sabotage or a self-destruction of the whole franchise. And the question that people logically ask is, why would they be, you know what, it's just like, Dylan Mulvaney and Bud Light. You remember that one? Hello?
Yeah, I do actually. So are you thinking that they're deliberately destroying private space? Musk is destroying himself. Everybody hates Musk now. They hate SpaceX. So
people much to produce. What do you think the total cost? So here's where fake versus real comes in. Does the money spent on producing something like this and promoting it and distributing it, they obviously, whoever released the videos and the media organizations get paid, the whole complex that involves propagating the psyop and putting it out there, right? The question is, how much is it really that much that they're spending? I contend, and if it fails at the box office, if the box office intention was to suck us in to the space narrative and try to reinforce it and prop it up, or conflate it with something else going on, who knows what? Well, of course they're conflating it. They're conflating it with the gender thing. They're conflating it with potentially it's conflated with Elon Musk.
That is true. They conflated this whole thing. They made it about, if you're criticizing this launch, you're a sexist, and they've made.
I say they have money to waste. I say they have money to blow. I say they own all the money, and they regulate how much of it's real, what percentage is real, and what percentage is fake, up and down.
The real currency is attention,
and they can afford to blow. They can afford to waste billions on idle amusement for the children of the old elite. Just for the ones who have aspirations to be pop stars or get up on a stage and be a rock and roll star. They can afford, and even if they're lousy at it. It reminds me of William Randolph Hearst and Marion Davies. They said she had no talent. Of course, really, she was very talented as a comedian, but she wanted to be an opera singer. And she just sucked at it. But he promoted her and made her, he had enough money to make her an opera singer and produce whole operas around her. Crazy, hire cast. And these people have money to blow. And you know how I know this? I know this because I'm a longtime student of probably the greatest American economist who ever lived, who you've probably never heard of. Maybe you did. They should have introduced you to him in high school. So greater than, in my view, as more important in America, especially even than, say, Karl Marx, Thorstein Veblen, Veblen. And he wrote The Theory of the Leisure Class. And the only surviving relic, which everybody should read, it's very well written. And the only surviving, and then Vance Packard, someone more in our generation, wrote The Status Seekers, which is sort of a follow-up to that. But from that we got the phrase "keeping up with the Joneses."
Okay.
Thorstein Veblen's Theory of the Leisure Class is where he's examining the robber barons of the railroad barons, the robber barons of the 1880s, 1890s, early 1900s, who became so fantastically wealthy that they would put this on display. And if you watch a movie like, a movie version of, say, The Great Gatsby, you see this kind of thing happening in the 1920s. Veblen called this conspicuous consumption. And it goes all the way back to the ancient times in the Middle Ages. The people in power have to manifest their dominance over us by these grand displays, of course.
Okay, I see.
And not just like Trump is going to the Pope's funeral. Is that right? I mean, that kind of thing. I mean, and people will all be talking about Melania's dress. That's how it works. That's how they run this.
Interesting.
Because a lot of it's cult of personality. A lot of people are so shallow and their lives are so boring that all they've got to do
there is a cult of personality aspect to all of this. It's an imperial cult of personality. It has that structure, and I think that structure of the cult of personality goes back to Rome, right? Their whole idea of essentially deifying.
It's a basic in human psychology. It's basic in human psychology, like Jungian archetypes and all that, But messiahs, heroes, and villains, because remember, every hero can be a villain. Like Alexander the Great, who comes down to us as Alexander the Great. To the Persians, he was a genocidal savage, because he killed a lot of them. So it depends on your perspective. But all I'm getting at here, the important point is these people have money to blow. And not only that, blowing the money on crazy shit like blockbuster epic spectacles that fail at the box office. This is a failed movie, right?
Right.
They have to do it. They have to do it. And here's the problem that a lot of the second level and third level Hollywood players, media players are going to have in this. Do they want their careers and their names to be associated with a failed blockbuster movie? Now, admittedly, like Kubrick's Barry Lyndon failed at the box office here in the United States. It's very successful over in Europe. That's his rendering of a great novel, and it's brilliantly done. Nobody likes it. Everybody hates Barry Lyndon. They say, "Oh, it's Kubrick's worst film." No, it's one of his greatest.
Well, I would argue that the propaganda utility takes precedent over aesthetics, and if it fails at the box office, it probably doesn't even really matter. I think the primary consideration is something more along the lines of
psychological effect, intended psychological effect. So what do I say all this? Made it transparent on purpose, staged this penis rocket, circumcised penis rocket. Is that right? Are they always circumcised?
Yeah, see, I get the feeling that they made that thing. They planted narratives that would make it seem fake to the right wing, who are predisposed to criticize feminists taking a trip to space in what was a male-dominated field. So now, they're calling it fake doesn't mean anything because it's all about the gender war thing. It's not even about
right, and that's the continuum. They got to maintain the continuum with this or that narrative. That's to support a particular narrative. In this case, maybe it's supporting the argument over DEI.
Exactly.
That's probably the most important aspect of this.
Yes,
but
yes,
and I think you identified that early on. But a lot of people, we all saw that. It wasn't like it was rocket science to see what they were doing with this, the polarization involved, the bifurcation, as you like to call it.
Another indicator that it was fake.
If you look at the stabbing,
yes,
this alleged 17-year-old stabbing I guess another high schooler. Was he another high schooler or was he a college?
Two high schools, all minors. So these are all basically.
Yeah, all minors, right. Which require, if they're crisis actors, that means the family, if they're, right, somebody had to sign for the actors who played these roles on camera. I don't even know if the names are real. People seem to say, oh yeah, we know the Met cast. I know the Met cast, but I don't know if that's real or not. But
I hear calf. I hear calf, and I think sacrifice. Like I think it's some kind of a story.
Yeah, that's into the
I mean, that's not an evidence.
That's not so.
It's pattern.
To me, the linkage of this to Kyle Rittenhouse was the most important aspect of it.
Right. They invoked him.
The Kyle Rittenhouse. Right, because what's his face? And of course, you're right. The synchronization of this with the same day that you know why this is important to me. Carmelo, the real Carmelo Anthony, who's a basketball superstar, comes from Baltimore. And he was a hometown hero here. Just like Len Bias. I could talk about Len Bias. That's before your time.
The real Carmelo Anthony he made the cut.
No, but you don't. Yeah, but you got to understand something. Do you know how he became famous here in Baltimore? Everybody said he was headed. I guess he was maybe headed for college at the time. Everybody knew he was going to end up in the pros. He was already a superstar. And he apparently made some homemade, how do I put it? Home movie videos, rap videos, gangster rap videos, and one was called Stop Snitching. And the idea was don't collaborate with the cops, don't collaborate with the police. Do you remember any of this? This was really big here in Baltimore and Maryland. Apparently Maryland is like center stage, the center ring of the circus for all of these narratives. And I can get into a whole analysis of why they use Maryland. Because, Washington, D.C. is there. I would say, the largest concentration of so-called deep state intelligence organizations in the military. It's all there. So it makes perfect sense that that's the case. Carmelo with a C, Carmelo Anthony, and I'm sure any of you NBA watchers out there are familiar with him, or especially NCAA March Madness. He was a star, and he got in trouble. Well, I don't know if there was a scandal over the fact that he was in some of these videos, the theme of which was stop snitching. Don't collaborate with the police.
Let's add one thing, because there's a theme here I'm picking up. Race war psyop, twins.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Race
basketball
war is
player.
huge. Oh, huge.
And basketball
Huge.
player.
Absolutely.
George Floyd, his twin, Steven Jackson, the basketball player, and then twins.
Well, they're all in on it. The whole NBA was in on it.
Nothing.
The whole NBA was in on it.
Yes.
And then when I saw them, and this was at the lowest depths of the COVID hysteria, where you could turn on a television or walk into a restaurant and look at the screen, and lo and behold, the stands were empty. They were playing the game in front of empty stands, and they had a couple cardboard cutouts because they prohibited. Because of the lockdowns. Do you remember that at all? The NBA games that were played in front of empty stands with cardboard a few cardboard cutouts in the stands.
Oh, yes.
And
MLB too. MLB.
Most important to me were the slogans. The slogans on the shirt, the jerseys of the NBA players. No justice, no peace, and all the slogans associated with. I mean, like Al Sharpton could have written these slogans, but of course, basically, my opinion at the time was that it was the ideological warfare department of the People's Liberation Army and the Chinese Communist Party, which I'm very, very schooled in. I have an original copy of Mao's Little Red Book and Lin Piao's Long to the Victory of People's War. And those slogans on those NBA shirts were suggested or recommended to them by the Chinese communists, of course. Because at that point, the NBA was making more money in China than here.
Right. And I remember.
I know people don't want to believe that.
I believe it. And I think you've brought this up before, because we were talking about how with the whole George Floyd event and the basketball player, Steven Jackson, we were talking about how, interestingly enough, I Can't Breathe is an anagram for a better China. And we were just making a big.
Yeah, well, they're instructed. No, they give instructions soon now. If you're stopped by the cops, just say, "I can't breathe."
Well, we were saying
just like hands up. You remember hands up? Remember hands up, don't shoot.
Yeah, exactly.
You remember the NFL hands up, don't shoot. Well, it's the same thing. I can't breathe. I can't. It's just a meme that they use to propagate an image of memory to trigger. Really triggers emotions because immediately you take it back.
I Can't Breathe was also applied to the environment because capitalism, the West, is destroying the atmosphere.
Yeah, I don't think. To me, that's I know.
They did apply.
I don't think
they did
anybody's
apply.
paying much attention.
No, they
to
actually did. I could find you examples of news stories where they said that.
I know that, but most people don't give a shit about that.
Actually,
most people are not into these arguments over capitalism versus communism.
I would say no. Every fan of Luigi that cheered on the murder of a CEO, they
just don't like being taken advantage of by the parasites and the vultures at the health insurance companies. Big deal. Can you? I'd sure like to do that. That's what people say. So what? So what would you? Something when Ronald Reagan was shot.
Gretaism is a staple of leftist work.
Well, you think now? Listen to you. You're more worried about the people out there that have been fucked over by the health insurance industry. And maybe they actually believe this was a real event, and they're thinking, yeah, that motherfucker got what was coming. You're more angry at those people.
I think it's sick.
And their justified resentment.
I think it's sick.
Than you are against the purpose of this psyop, aren't you?
I don't believe that murder.
You're more angry at them than you are against the health insurance companies that are shaking down the whole country, aren't you?
I think we should lock up murderers. I think murderers are despicable, evil people.
I think we should lock up swindlers and con artists and Pentagon psyop specialists for racketeering.
Well, the QAnon
and money laundering and a host of other crimes that we could prosecute them for tomorrow if we were the government. If we were the government, we could round these people up and charge them tomorrow, and there'd be plenty of lawyers to prosecute. Because lawyers are whores. They'll do whatever we tell them.
Well, let me
but we're not in that position. We're just on the outside looking in.
Look, for some in the comment section, I'm not anti-communist. I'm just pointing out that I don't believe in class warfare. I don't believe in it. Like, I don't believe that the elite are oppressing the poor and the poor need rights. Like, I'm not a communist.
Well, yeah,
I don't
there's a
believe-
psychological aspect of it that
I'm
operates.
saying that this is
But-
part
but-
of the narrative that is being played out.
You're more worried about class warfare than you are about
I'm not
these
worried.
bastards that
I'm
are
not, hey, I'm
robbing
not,
the country
I am-
blind. Come on.
No, you're missing my point. I'm not.
Actually,
let me-
you're a free enterprise
No,
man.
let me-
Yeah, good for
I
you.
think you're completely.
Listen, you should make as much money as you
listen.
can off this.
No, how about-
Really,
How about
sell
this, man?
subscriptions.
How about listen for a second?
You know,
All
right?
I'm talking about.
Grift off of it. Sure, that's
Okay, let me go ahead and sorry. Here's what I'm saying here, and I'm sorry I have to cut her off. That on the world stage, we're looking at the narratives in play. What Luigi represents is this idea that the lower class are being oppressed by the elite, and that this was justifiable class warfare, that it's a form of social justice. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying I advocate either side. I'm saying that this is how the story is being described. I'm not on team CEO. I'm not on team Luigi. I'm describing this in the context of the media environment in which it emerged. It emerged in the wake of the madness about class warfare. It emerged in the wake of the Joker about kill the rich, class warfare. I'm just describing it. I'm not taking sides. That's why I'm not emotional. I'm not taking sides. That's why I'm not mad about people not being, I'm not trying to jail people or prosecute people. I'm not fighting the system or pretending to. I'm not a propaganda mule. I'm not triggered. So I'm not taking sides in this. I'm just accurately describing things, but apparently a lot of people are taking sides. Like, to not be in support of Luigi's actions is to therefore support the rich CEO bad guys oppressing the poor. No, this is the type of either or cult thinking that typifies news consumers. News consumers, if you don't believe what I believe on Fox News, then you're a liberal Democrat. If you don't believe my wokeism on CNN, you're a right-wing racist conspiracy theorist. I'm like, sorry, I'm anti-pro. I'm not on either side. I think that mainstream media fundamentalism is a mental illness. Wokeism is a mental illness. Trutherism is a mental illness. Like, I think it's sick. Girl says very revealing. Revealing about what? That I'm not falling for any of this garbage? That I don't believe you have a moral high ground for cheering on some murderer? That you can't just call a murder in itself a sick act? Have you ever, I mean, I've put murdered bodies in body bags and moved them. I've embalmed bodies. I've been around death. I'm not shocked by it. But at the same time, I recognize it. I'm not detached enough from it to where I can say, oh, it's a good thing this guy got murdered because he somehow victimized this class. Like, no, I would say you're a victim of mind war, an advocate of mind war, and you occupy a very low moral ground here. I'm going to go watch a movie, and I'm going to make a prediction. I'm going to go watch a movie called Sinners about vampires in the South, 1930s Mississippi, and the vampires are all white. My guess here is that this movie is going to play into the race war agitprop that we're seeing on the world stage right now with Austin Metcalf. Now, I'm making a prediction based on my understanding of what entertainment is. It's all propaganda. Entertainment is a side effect or a byproduct. It's just the sweet sugar in the poison. So I'm going to go to the movies under the presupposition that I'm looking at propaganda designed to build off of the ongoing psyops in the news. I'm going to come back and I will record a review of Sinners after I've gone and taken some notes. But I appreciate the call. We disagree. That's fine. And I think it's important to understand our points of disagreement. My points of disagreement is I think activists on the anti or the pro side are both part of the mind war, part of the problem, controlled opposition or outright opposition. Either way, you're in the perpetual war zone that Orwell wrote about, the perpetual war. And I'm not. I opted out of the mind war. Does that mean that I've lost the moral high ground? That I advocate passivity and compliance to tyranny? No. And that's where conspiracy theorists have it wrong. Conspiracy theorists, for some reason, think that they are the only ones fighting for truth, when in fact they're obfuscating truth. They're spreading alternative brainwashing, paranoia, fear, and a lot of it's just culture war, divisiveness, and hate. Stuff that I don't have a lot of time for. You know, it's like 1 minute you're studying Bigfoot and UFOs, and next thing you know, you hate immigrants. It's like, I didn't actually follow that path with y'all. I didn't follow the agitprop worldview. I recognize that itself is the weapon. The things you're told to be afraid of, you know, nukes, 5G towers, chemtrails, that's a distraction from the worldview box they put you in, the political horseshoe, where you get shuffled towards these extremes, where anybody who doesn't agree with me is de facto on the other side. They're my, if you're not with me, you're against me. And it's like, I'm sorry, but that's very culty. Everybody who doesn't agree with me is a liberal, communist, New World Order stooge. Like, no, we shouldn't be thinking of these broad generalities, but we should also recognize the fact that there are evidences and examples of compartments and compartmentalization in terms of worldview, and it makes a difference. It matters. The cleanest, I think the most obvious example of this when it comes to worldviews is religions. Look at different religious worldviews and the frameworks they provide, and just extend that to media. Look how leftist media creates a perception. Look at how right-leaning media creates a perception. And then look at the Normieville. And I'm saying all of these created perceptions are essentially augmentations. That's how they can all coexist. You can live in the world where Bill Gates is a villain and a savior. Elon Musk is a villain and a savior, depending on which side of the political aisle that you're on. And how can that be possible? That the same individual can be a villain and a savior? How does that work? Well, it's because it's a system based on subjectivity and a bifurcation that splits every major issue along these political lines. It creates a chasm. And it's so programmable that if you're anti-immigrant, you're probably scared of aliens. Like you're scared of ET, because you're taking the propaganda from the same sources. If you are open borders and you love immigrants, chances are you can't wait for your space brothers to come down from the Galactic Federation. If you're in favor of open borders, you're probably pro-vax. You're like open skin. If you're terrified of immigrants and you want closed borders, you're also going to fall into the category of people who think that the needle is a death sentence. These are not coincidences. These compartments are designed for your containment. And when I see somebody speaking from one of these boxes, I'm like, okay, you're in that box. I know all of your opinions. And that's an embarrassment. It's an embarrassment that somebody can hear 3 syllables from you and read your mind. And that's only possible if you're indoctrinated, compartmentalized, and essentially mind controlled. I mean, it's easy for right-wing agitators to go onto a college campus and trigger a bunch of libs. Why is it so easy? Because you know that they have uniformity in thought, that they are uniformly triggerable along certain fault lines, certain buttons you can push. It's just easy to do. Same goes for the right. The right can get triggered by lefties. Every time they have a Grammy Award show, some guy comes out with devil horns. The right-wingers are all going to flip. It's a system designed this way. And I'm not in these compartments where you can just come out here and press a button and I'm going to be triggered. I'm not going to jump up and defend some CEO, and I'm not going to defend some murderer of the CEO. I'm an objectivist, and I'm looking at this from the perspective of the off-world stage that doesn't take for granted the edifice of lies upon which the other worldviews rest. I mean, if you're going to be advocating Trutherville orthodoxies, you are signing off, you're co-signing on fake history, on fake news. Like, I'm mad at Bush because what? 9/11? So then what else is attached to that presupposition? Do you believe that these were the victims? Do you believe, I mean, when you go down the line, you see that these beliefs don't happen in a vacuum, in isolation. Every belief that you stand on is going to have a cluster of other things attached to it. And I look at these things, I'm like, well, I'm not going to accept this one if it means I must therefore sign off on this. So I'm very much agnostic when it comes to news and history. I'm not going to be triggered off of something that I don't believe even happened. King Ravana says, I'm mad at Reagan. Yeah, well, I think we can all kind of see by now. I mean, Trump's the greatest example of this, that we've been collectively played by a never-ending reality TV show. And if you want to dispute that, tell me where it has become objectively real. Tell me when the fakery stopped. Especially if you're someone who understands how twisted our history is, how unreliable it is in terms of it being anything more than just a story. What kind of objective worldview can we claim to have if we know our daily news is bent and daily news aggregates, accumulates, and becomes history? I like to point this out. Look at a textbook that anybody has to basically memorize to graduate high school, and show me in this book where it acknowledges anything other than the mainstream media interpretation of events. And then when you take into account how many of these things we know to be false, bent, distorted, utterly fabricated, then what are we to make of it? It's not nothing. It's actually the only conspiracy worth talking about. You can get mad at all these little political footballs. You can get mad chasing red herrings. You can seek to advocate for the beheadings of the oppressors or whatever. You can get mad at this stuff all you want. But ultimately, I think that none of this matters if we're not fundamentally exposing really the elephant in the room, which is special effects, media fakery, simulation, and the purpose of it. And nobody's arrived at a purpose. Like when you look at all these different channels that notice fake stuff, none of them seem to explain why. Why are they faking it? What is the purpose? It's beyond just political points. It's not just they're trying to influence you to take your guns. No, it's actually they are writing history. They already wrote it. We're living on a historical timeline that has probably been, I think, I don't know, maybe 100 years in advance. We're watching them act it out real time, but our history is prefabricated. If you need any evidence of this, look at somebody like Donald Trump, one of the greatest examples of a scripted character who has existed in the popular imagination since at least the 50s. Look at all the different examples of characters that have conditioned us for the emergence of the Donald Trump. And that's what they do. That's what a large part of the entertainment is setting the stage for fake news, our history. Look at science fiction. How many science fiction writers are credited with being prophets? They're not prophets. They're not even good guessers. They are propagandists, creating the worldview that is going to be acted out on the world stage, and it's going to be accepted as real, even though it's really qualitatively no different than a movie. All right, let's see here. Going through your comments. Yeah, so I guess the final point, because here's a list of things we were talking about tonight. Klaus Schwab and the Pope stepped down, both 88, possibly significant. Austin Metcalf being touted as a white Trayvon Martin by the Protect White Americans. So we see this racial agitprop building. Tucker Carlson and Alex Jones are forecasting a racial false flag. Meanwhile, the movie I'm about to go see, called Sinners, seems to also be playing into this racial false flag build-up narrative. So I'm going to go watch this propaganda piece, and I'll come back tonight with a full review. Catching up on comments. What's up? Pippi Langstruff says rant culture. Hey, I'm all for ranting, but I'm also for ideas taking precedent over emotion. And I'm trying to be as impartial as I can. Like, I don't have a dog in this fight. I lost a lot of, I would say, well, a lot of our think tank members left in 2018-ish when Q came out. When Q took over, they didn't like this idea that we're calling fake. Like, no, it's not fake, or it's a false flag, or it's a deep state trying to get Trump. A lot of people don't want to let go of the horror show of it all. I think it's because of the culture of truthers fighting the New World Order. And it's like, you know what? It's futile. There's no reason to fight it. You don't even know what you're fighting. And it's already here. The new world order isn't coming. It's the old world order. They're just updating certain aspects of it, but nothing has changed. And I think that sounds defeatist to a lot of people, but it's the truth. And I think we should start there. All right, well, I'm going to go watch Sinners. I'm going to come back tonight with a review. This is Chief Crow, Auto Hoax.
I'm on auto hoax and it feels so good. You just auto believe everything like I knew that you would. In my dream, you know I ain't got time, baby, for another crisis actor with soulless eyes.
My buddy, my buddy and me.
Telecommunications Act of 1996.
96, y'all.
Gonna filter your eyes and serve your mind. The weatherman, he's just another bad joke. You can be a dumb little donkey like he is. I'ma be an auto hoax. Auto hoax, and it feels so good. Yeah. You just auto believe everything like I knew that you would. In my dream, you know I ain't got time, baby, for another crisis actor with soulless eyes. Got no heart. TV, bones, books, secrets, symbols, numbers, planets, etc.